Well, I'm going to be making one of my favorite things to make, and it's one of my favorite things to make because it always comes out great and it's really easy. It uses simple ingredients. And that is pumpkin bread. It's from the Food Network. I will put the link in the description box. I also use this recipe for making applesauce bread. I just changed the seasonings around. I am really excited about some of my ingredients today. Of course, I'll be using the usual sugar, flour, etc., but I have homegrown pumpkin. I actually started the seedlings for these pumpkins. My neighbor raised the pumpkins. He brought the pumpkins back to me. I've made him pumpkin bread. Now I'm going to use some more of it to make the recipient of this gift some pumpkin bread. This is another friend of mine who has all sorts of poultry, and she gave me some eggs. These are actually duck eggs, and these are tiny little chicken eggs. I was told that duck eggs do a great job in baking, so I'm going to give them a try. So this is pretty much a homegrown event here. This video is part of a collaboration named Flower It Up. It's hosted by my friends Ashley and Amy Martin of Martin Midlife Misadventures. They have an incredible bushcraft, prepper, survivalist, whatever you want to call it, channel on YouTube, and full of great advice, full of crazy adventures, shopping hauls, budget living, pantry, you name it, they have it dialed in. Check it out. So they do a weekly collaboration called Flower It Up, hashtag Flower It Up, and every Friday, new recipes using flour. This is actually a 2-bowl recipe because you have your dried ingredients and your wet ingredients, and it really works out great if you can do them separately. So the first thing you want is 3.5 cups of flour. So let's do that. There's one. Whoops. Not an exact science. 2. Put a little bit less in here. 3. And 1/2. Well, that worked out. Now we're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, 1, 2 teaspoons baking soda. I buy mine in bulk because I use it to clean out coffee cups and all sorts of stuff. So I have a little bit by my baking area. So 2 teaspoons, that was 1. Here is the second. 1 teaspoon baking powder, and interesting factoid, I guess, is that evidently they're going to be removing this piece of metal here, which has always evened out the teaspoons here. I guess it's cost saving. I don't know. I'm going to miss it. Maybe I'll save this one and refill it. All right, here's my 1 teaspoon baking powder. So now the seasonings, and this combination is really amazing. For years, I was just using pumpkin pie spice instead to the same amounts, but then I tried what they recommended, and it was very good. So this is a 1/2 teaspoon because my teaspoon won't fit here. So I want 1 teaspoon nutmeg, so I'm going to do 2 of these, 1 and 2. 1 teaspoon allspice, 1, 2 1/2 teaspoons. 1/2 teaspoon cloves. A little bit of cloves go a long way, ground cloves. And 1 teaspoon cinnamon. This is a new cinnamon from Walmart. See if we can get the teaspoon in there. I can. Okay. 1. I'm going to do a quick whisk of all of these ingredients: salt, baking soda, baking powder, everything that's in there, so that later on when you take a bite out of this, you don't get a mouthful of something that is good in small amounts but not good in big amounts. Always good to do this. Even the mixer doesn't completely mix things up, so I like to give it a head start. So I'm going to set these dry ingredients aside, and we'll start with the wet ingredients. All right, the wet ingredients start with 2.5 cups of sugar, because I'm going to mix that with the actual wet ingredients. The recipe calls for 3 cups of sugar. I found 2.5 to be sufficient. I'm actually going to get a scoop for this. Sometimes I can kind of eyeball this or just pour it out safely. This is not one of those times. So I said 2.5. I have 1 cup in there. Now it's 2 cups in there. And I'm going to give it another 1/2 cup. Kind of a scant 1/2 cup. All right. 1 cup of vegetable oil. And I'm going to put this now in the mixer for a few minutes and get it all mixed up. All right, that's looking pretty fluffed up. Let's look at it. Now we're going to stir in the eggs and the pumpkin. So I'm going to put the pumpkin in, and I'm going to crack those eggs too. Well, I just did some egg washing, the best of my ability without breaking the shells. The recipe calls for 4 eggs, so I have 3 of these duck eggs, which seem to be bigger than regular eggs, and then I have one of these miniature eggs. So I think altogether they will be 4. Well, this will give you a sense of scale here. The duck eggs are absolutely bigger. The yolks are bigger than the chicken eggs I usually have, and then of course the little tiny one. So the end result, as I said, should be 4. I've also just preheated the oven to 350. So let's put these in, and then they're going to go back into the mixer. So here it is, all mixed up. All the wet ingredients, and I'm going to put this back in the mixer, and you start mixing it and slowly scooping in the dry ingredients. I have my scoop, and I'm going to do that, and I'll be back when it's all done. All right, I just took it out of the mixer. You don't want to over mix this, but I wanted it to be mixed because it just makes such a difference in this case. And my mixer lifted a little bit around the edge and at the bottom, so I'm just getting it fully mixed. All right. Let's start getting it ready for the oven. I'm going to be putting most of these in these foil containers. I like these for quick breads more than anything else. I just wash them and reuse them. With the exception of one, which is going to be bigger, I'm going to be giving this one to the gal who gave me the eggs. And the same day she gave me the eggs, she took me out to lunch. So I have this philosophy, as you know, if someone gives me something, an edible gift of an ingredient, the first person who gets something back is that person. So let's get started. I'm going to put a parchment paper in this one, and the rest I'm going to spray with Pam. All right, here's the first round. I have the bigger one in parchment paper, and then these I have just sprayed with Pam. I probably could have sprayed this with Pam too, but parchment paper, I feel safer with parchment paper, especially if I'm giving it to someone. I originally told you to preheat the oven to 350. That is actually the directions on the recipe, but I like to preheat it to 400, put it in at 400 degrees for 10 minutes, then reduce it to 350, and you'll get a nice rise. So I have these first 3, the bigger one and the 2 smaller ones, on a cookie sheet, and I'm going to put them in the preheated 400 degree oven for 10 minutes, then bring it down to 350 until it's ready. And here they are. Some I took out of the oven earlier and out of the pans, and the last 2 were the second round. I really like what happens when you put them in the oven for the first 10 minutes at 400, then you bring it down to 350. Everything is cooling. Give it a try in a little bit, but if experience has any play in this, I'm going to tell you they're probably delicious. Nice and fluffy too with those duck eggs. And here it is, looking beautiful. So delicious. Look how fluffy it is. I think the duck eggs did make it fluffier. I'm having a potluck in a little while. I've got a bunch of things going, and I thought I'd have a plate of this out too. We'll see what everyone else thinks, and I'm really glad I have something to give to my friend who gave me those eggs in the first place. So that's been my baking day, and I thank you so much for watching.